First and now, the official BC Lions podcast. Matt Baker alongside Nick Kowalski. A little bonus episode for you this week. We don't often do a bonus episode, but when we do, it's for very, very good reason. It's our pleasure to welcome in someone who needs no introduction, but a first-time guest on this podcast, a four-time Grey Cup champion, his name all over the CFL record books, five-time CFL All-Star, won his first championship, of course, in 2011 with the BC Lions, number 33 in your program. It is our pleasure to welcome Andrew Harris to the show. Andrew, great to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be on the show, and I love what you guys are doing with the podcast and representing the West and the BC Lions as well. So good on you guys.
Yeah, it's good to see a lot of teams kind of taking charge in the content world. I know both your other two former teams, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they've got our pal Ed Tate writing stories. I think him and DC are doing their Handled Internally podcast, a little podcast-to-podcast promo there. And the Toronto Argonauts have always been solid too. So, it's taken a while, but good to see all these teams coming on board on the content train. We're going to talk about your documentary, Running Back Relentless, which has premiered this week. We got to see an advanced screening of it. Very powerful stuff. But I wanted to just sort of get an update on what else is going on. You're going to be in Winnipeg on Friday, right? We're going to see you week 3, Lions and Bombers, and you're going to catch two of your old teams.
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of a media tour, heading east to west. So I'm stopping in Winnipeg for the game against the Lions, and looking forward to being, just interacting with the fans and hanging out and having some fun. And it's gonna be weird being an investors group or Princess Auto Field now, as a non-player, as a spectator. So we'll see how far I can maneuver around there. I mean, Winnipeg fans are pretty nuts. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity. And, even with the season, the way it's going, it's going to be a great matchup between, two of what I thought were going to be the two top teams in the West, going head to head for, trying to get their teams back on track.
Yeah, and we can talk a lot about the first couple of weeks and what has happened. Definitely a couple of surprises in the standings, but it's still been well less than a year since you last strapped him on the Eastern Final against Montreal. Have you adjusted to retirement life yet? Is it weird to wake up knowing that you're not going to a film study, you're not going to a practice? What's that whole adjustment been like?
Yeah, it's been pretty seamless. I mean, I was working in the field I'm in now, kind of passively, for the last 5 or 6 years. So I work for a publicly traded company. We're in the construction sector. We manufacture engineered wood products for residential, single family, multifamily, commercial builds. So I've been kind of doing this for the last little while. So it was pretty seamless transition. I did go to Argo's training camp in just for the first week, and I got the itch after like day 2 or 3. I was like, I gotta get the hell out of here, man. I'm gonna end up playing again next year. So but honestly, it's like the mind thinks it can still do what the body can't anymore, and just the recovery and and for the last year for sure, I was more out there playing for as a mentor and leadership, and my glory days were well behind me, and it's a tough pill to swallow. It's tough to kind of accept it, but I mean, I kind of created and turned my game into be more productive and more influential, off the field. And, I kind of talk about that in the documentary a bit, about that transition of, being so dominant on the field, and then, trying to cater your game and your environment to being, influential off the field, and helping your team get better within your group, within the offense, within the whole structure of the whole thing. So pretty unique kind of opportunity to do that and go through that. The Argos kind of looked at me as that player that could kind of come in and be a player coach, so to speak, which isn't a lot of opportunities that players get. So definitely took it and ran with it. And but at the end of the day, I just knew I wasn't able to, hit the hole as hard and break as many tackles. And then the big thing is just recovery. Like, Jesus, if I had a game where I had a few touches and I got hit a couple times, I was feeling it for, a week and a half, and that was the big thing for me. Or before, I'd have a game with 30 touches and the next day I'd be running around, full of piss and vinegar. So I mean, it was crazy to it's crazy to see it happen, feel it happen. But I'm very, very happy and content with retirement, and I'm enjoying watching the games a lot more now from a fan perspective. And not being, obviously I retired as a Bomber, but I have so many great friends, and brothers across the league that are coaching now and still playing. So, I'm kind of cheering for each guy individually and just enjoying the game more as a fan now.
Well, on that note, Andrew, I saw some photos of you this past weekend at Tim Hortons Field repping a Riders jersey. Did you catch any flack for? I know
Yeah.
it was for your guy AJ Ouellette, but did you catch any flack for wearing a Riders jersey?
Oh man, I got torn apart on Instagram, and yeah, I had a couple messages from. I have a lot of great friends from Regina that I played junior with, so they were all over it, loving it. But I mean, again, I'm not any a Rider fan at all, but I'm an AJ Ouellette fan. I'm a Yoshi Hardrick fan, Corey Mace fan. Those are my guys, right? So just there supporting them, and but yeah, it was kind of like just a joke that I was going to wear this thing, and then AJ held me to it by bringing me a jersey for me to put on. So his mom had a jersey from me, so I threw it on, and yeah, it was pretty fun. Actually, the jerseys they got are pretty sharp. Actually, I couldn't go full Rider green. I had to the dark green. I can handle.
Yeah, for a Rider jersey, it's not bad.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Awesome. Well, should we get into Running Back Relentless now?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just start from the top. Like, when did this even come about? When did you have thoughts? Like, did you get approached? Like, how did this whole process even begin?
Yeah, so me and Taylor Prestige used to work back when I played with the Lions, actually. So there was Team Shaw, which Shaw Cable was part of the league, and they did these initiatives they had one or two players on each team, and they did videos and highlights and kind of get to know the players a bit more. So me and Taylor kind of got to know each other as he was the producer and doing a lot of the video and shooting. So we actually did a small project in 2018 on TSN. It was called I Shouldn't Be Here. I think it's still on YouTube. But we worked with TSN with it. It was only about 22 minutes, and we kind of just scratched a bit of an itch there, and that didn't really get to fully dive into what we wanted to. And then you fast forward from 19, 20, 21 to retiring, and so much had happened in my life I was kind of just going through and dealing with. And within talking to Taylor about some of these things, he was like, you know what, man, like, are you comfortable with sharing this stuff and doing a full on documentary, 120 minutes and getting it all off your chest. And, I wanted to, at first I was like, wow, like, what am I going to do here? How am I going to put this across? And what's the goal for it? And then what I said to him, and I was like, if we can get this to a point where it's relatable to everyone, because I think everyone can relate to some of the issues I went through and the trauma and the dark places that people get to. I don't want it to be a self-fulfilling and more of like a pump up documentary like a lot of them are, right? Everyone kind of just talks about their career and the great things they did. I wanted to kind of, I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in and really let it all out and leave my heart on my sleeve. So we did that, just exact that, and it's exactly that, and telling my story from childhood up until junior to my time with the BC Lions, and just going through more so of the dark parts and the issues I was kind of going through, which kind of led to me being at the top of my game and the highest pinnacle, and then also just falling even farther down into a dark place. But at the end of the day, it's just there's light at the end of the tunnel with a good support system and being vulnerable and being able to talk about these things. And my whole goal is, this is a football documentary. It's a football story it's a documentary about a football player, but it's not a football documentary. Sorry. And I think it's going to be relatable to a lot of different people in a lot of different walks of life, and hopefully it can save someone from being, in the harsh reality that I was in and making a bad decision and hurting themselves worse than they already are. And that's the whole goal for me.
Upon watching the documentary for the first time, the screening that we got, one thing that definitely stood out to me was just how raw you got in especially some of the sit down moments. And I know they probably in advance, they told you that they were going to get into your family history and all the trauma that you ended up sharing with the viewers that will be watching this. But there's one scene at the start where they just show your stepfather on the screen. And I love when I'm interviewing subjects too, I like to just kind of sit back after and just let them kind of talk and just keep the silence going, and then they'll keep talking, right? And there's a moment where you look back and you can see there's a tear in your eye and you just say, I hate that guy. And it's very raw, right? So just going through those moments, like how difficult was it even during the process of making it and letting out that raw emotion that you do in the film?
Yeah, I mean, there's a key component to this whole thing, and I brought on a childhood friend and someone I grew up with who's in the music industry. And he knew my story very well, where Taylor kind of just heard it from me telling him, right? So I wanted to have someone that was behind the scenes that could ask questions that would trigger me and ask questions that were really, really sensitive to me, and not just sort of Taylor getting what he thought he needed to get out of me. So it was a great dynamic between the two of them. And then, the film crew did a great job of shooting things and setting things up. And but yeah, it just came down to just me being like, I don't like to do anything half-assed. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be real, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to share my story. And I'm going to make sure that, people will understand, where and what I was going through. And also if they can relate to that, if they're in that dark spot, that they can too get out of it, and they have hope at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. And there is hope. I was in a real spot where I thought I was honestly like going to take my life. And I had horrible thoughts, and just one or two buddies, speaking to a sports psychologist and just channeling that negative energy into a positive, you can achieve great things. But it's hard to after doing this for so long without even realizing you're doing it, it just eats at you, and it just keeps stacking and stacking and stacking. And then you finally hit a breaking point where it's just too much. And depending on where your life is going at that moment, some people can have this dust off, but where I was at, it was just too much for me to take on and too much for me to swallow. So yeah, I mean, unbelievable to just even get it out. And it's funny even too, watching the documentary for the first couple of times, I'm more critiquing it. I'm like, okay, how do I want to tell this story, and how I want this to be, how I want it to be viewed, and this and that. And for the first time last Friday when I watched it in Toronto, I just accepted it for what it was. And I saw a weight and perspective of it. I was like, this is what it is. And this is the story. And this is my story. And, the amount of people at the viewing that came up that aren't football fans, that aren't related to sports and this and that, and saying that it can relate to them, that's 100% what I wanted to achieve and get from this, and hopefully again, just inspire someone to keep pushing forward.
There's a couple big turning points on your football path that the documentary I thought explained quite nicely. Andrew, was your mom mentioned switching to Oak Park High School, and I think it was the 12th grade, as a saving grace for you. For those who haven't seen it yet and those who don't know that angle, why was that?
Yeah, I mean, in grade 11, grade 10, 11, I was just hanging with the wrong crew and just getting myself into trouble, and I wasn't even considering school. And at that point, I just passed my went through the hockey realm and just kind of stopped playing hockey. I was getting scholarship offers for football and working through that, but I had zero focus on school, honestly. Like I just figured I was gonna make it just off raw talent and good looks. That's really what I thought. I was like, I'm fine. I didn't really have any guidance. I was always out of the house. I was always just being outside and being away from the positive influences and the positive things I should have been doing. So me switching to Oak Park was a saving grace in a sense where I didn't end up in jail, but I was still making stupid mistakes while I was at Oak Park. But it did help me out in a big sense. But I had so much more growing up to do, and I finally found that when I moved to the island in Nanaimo, and I had guys like Coach Snoop and Hadi Abbasi, the owner and head coach of the team, who I could finally like trust, look up to, and have some mentors in my life for the first time.
Yeah, Hadi Abbasi is mentioned as the gentleman who convinced you to go to Nanaimo to play for the Vancouver Island Raiders, and that's how you end up on the BC Lions territorial exemption list at the end of the day. But, how did you cross paths with Hadi, and where do you think your path would have gone had he not orchestrated that move to the island?
Yeah, so a good friend that I grew up with in Winnipeg, his older brother used to play for the Victoria Rebels back in the day, and at that time in 2005, the Raiders were a brand new team, their expansion team that started off, and they took a solid group of the players and coaches and started their own thing in Nanaimo. So when I went there, that was the first year, the inaugural year, and yeah, so I just kind of found my way through word of mouth and a friend of a friend of a brother of a friend, and yeah, and that's how that all played out. But where I'd be without, yeah, I don't know. I can't even tell you. It's funny. I'm writing a recommendation letter for a friend that's been in prison for 16 years. That was the guy I kind of looked up to, and I'm writing this letter right now to recommend him getting out of prison, and it's like I could have been right there beside him, and being in that same situation. So I'm getting goosebumps and sweating over here just thinking about it, because yeah, I was really on that brink, honestly, and going down the wrong path and all the wrong ways. And again, the Nanaimo, Hattie, that organization, saved my life, and honestly, I'm forever indebted to them and the CGFL for that matter, because without me not being able to go to school, and playing junior football, junior football is an outlet for a lot of great football players across the country. And it's amazing what the Lions are continue to do with bringing guys in and giving opportunities, because not every person is a school person and a university kid. And there's lots of great players out there that deserve opportunities. So it's great to see them still contributing and giving guys an honest opportunity to make it through junior.
You've also, throughout your career, you've become a huge role model pretty much throughout Canada, I would say, as a Canadian running back, one of the all-time greats in the CFL. And I'm sure, and even in a market like Winnipeg, I'm sure you get high school kids or young athletes coming up to you all the time looking for advice. So I'm sure, do you tell them your story and kind of advise them to, correct some of the mistakes that you may wish you done differently? Or at the same time, though, like it's mentioned in the documentary, where if you're a hotshot athlete, like you're going to have a lot of fame and you got to enjoy that lifestyle too, right? But you got to also make the same decisions, right? Do you kind of how do you go about that with young athletes?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, because every situation is different. Every player is different. And I was reluctant to actually give people my story, because I didn't really feel comfortable telling it. Obviously now it's going to be up to whoever wants to see it, in North America here. And, it's going to be on all platforms, and that's going to be a whole nother bag of worms in itself, because I'm already anticipating, people reaching out and all these different channels and different ways of trying to deal with that. But, I think the big thing for me is make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And that's honestly, it's so easy to say, but when you really look around your five best friends, and you look at them in the eye and you say, okay, who are these guys? Who am I hanging out with? And is that what I want to be? Is that who I want to be represented in the public eye? And if it's not, you should change your circle. And it's so easy to say that, but a lot of times you kind of just get caught up in these moments, and these are your boys and these are your friends. And but it's so easy for them to drag you down and drag yourself down, or maybe you are the ringleader in that, and you're just kind of going with what but whatever the case may be, there's always going to be a positive outlet somewhere. You got to find that channel whatever energy you're putting in the negative way, and just go for it, or else, it is a slippery slope.
And then when it goes back to the documentary, one of the biggest wow moments I had was where you're at BC Place and your father, unbeknownst to you and him, is there at BC Place watching you as this up and coming Canadian running back, and then you discover that later. So for those who haven't watched it yet, just explain that process and all the feelings you had going through that
experience. We're giving away
experience.
too much here, guys. No, but no, yeah. I mean, we did a special with Farhan actually on Father's Day a few years ago about this story. But yeah, I mean, it was nuts. I mean, I actually was looking for him, and again, you know, we only fit in so much in the documentary that we can, but you know, there was much more that kind of went into that story. I was looking for him for probably about 5 or 6 years. And then of all places, I kind of just put him on LinkedIn, and this face pops up, and I'm like, oh, shoot. So I sent my mom the picture, and you know, it all comes to that this is my father. And you know, him living, first of all, 4 blocks away from me, and then 2, you know, he was working as like the head of security at the lines at BC Place for the last few years. So it wasn't like it was just that year. He had been watching me for years, and like I probably passed him in the stadium multiple times, and you know, it's just, it was crazy. Like he was there for 2011, but I didn't meet him until I think it was 2014 or something like that. So again, it was just kind of like we had been around each other for so long, and then we, you know, finally realized that, you know, that's my father, I'm his son. And yeah, it was definitely, I mean, you can't make this shit up. It was nuts.
Yeah, I remember back in the old 1040 radio days, Farhan was one of our weekly contributors, and he kind of gave us the heads up at that time that he was working on this. And I remember just thinking, wow, like what are what are the odds? And then to hear this talked about in the actual documentary, to hear it firsthand from you again, it's just, yeah. It's unbelievable.
I mean, and that's the whole side of it too. I mean, you know, a lot of the trauma that I've kind of went through is just, you know, we're going to call it daddy issues, whatever. But you know, not having a male role model, and not even a real positive male role model, but one that was very, very negative. You know, and then to meet someone who was, you know, in that same light, but not maybe the best role model as well. Just kind of alludes to the whole story even more of how difficult this has been, and again, you know, just shedding light on, you know, what a lot of other people are probably going through as well.
You have a few kids of your own now, and you know, everything you went through. How much do you think about that? How much does that motivate you to be the best father you can be for your kids?
Oh man, I feel like I'm overdadding at times right now because I'm trying so hard to be just, you know, on top of everything. So I mean, it's amazing. I mean, my daughter Hazel, who's 16, and you know, I've had her kind of full time for the last few years. And then now that we're out in London, you know, she's kind of going through that if she wants to finish her school there, or come out here for school. So I'm about 80% sure she's going to be coming out here in the fall for her last 2 years of high school, which is going to be amazing. Axton's a year and a half, and then we got another one on the way due in September. So yeah, the family is growing. It's amazing. And you know, I kind of talk and allude to it in the documentary about, you know, how complete and home and solid I feel now, with having my own family and just doing it the right way, or the right way in my eyes. Like I said, I feel like I'm over dadding in a lot of ways, but you know, I just want to give them everything I didn't have and more. And I think that's, as fathers, you know, we always want to do that. We strive for greatness, and you know, it is challenging in a lot of ways. And anyone who has kids can attest to that. And anyone who's been through, you know, childhood trauma with their parents, you know, will always kind of say to them, and you know, try to delete everything negative that they went through and had in their lives. And it's hard to kick sometimes, you know, because that's the only way you see it and what you know. But you know, you know, my babies are my babies, and you know, I just want to see them be great.
Well said. Well, we got you for a couple more minutes. No more documentary spoilers. We've hit on some of the powerful parts. There's plenty more where that came from for those who want to check it out. But have to talk a little football with you. We were kind of kibitzing before we started this interview about the start of the season, but going down memory lane, we're going to see you in Winnipeg. I'm sure you'll be back at a Lions game at some point. We'll make that happen for sure. But what Lion memories do you love the most? I mean, everyone knows the Grey Cups and some big playoff wins, setting records. What guys do you still talk to? Anything Lions related that you're fond of, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'll date it way back to, 2008, or 2007. That was my first rookie camp. And, they had me at number 74, playing behind Jason Claremont. And, I had never played receiver in my life. And, that's how they saw me. They didn't see me as a Canadian running back at the time. But I remember going and having to, we had a pitch play called, and Jason had got hurt the play before, and then Greg Hetherington was the number two at Y. He was hurt, so I was going in the 1v1s versus Cam Wake, and I had to crack down on him on a play, and I was like literally shitting my pants. I was like, oh my god, this guy's gonna eat me alive. So anyways, I come down on this crack ball. We're in a bunch formation. I'm the point of the bunch, and I crack down on Cam Wake, and I get him, and everyone goes crazy. The defense is going nuts. And then I didn't make eye contact with him for, the next 3 days, because I was scared he was going to murder me. But I remember that was like one of the biggest moments for me as a junior kid. I think I was, 19 or 20 years old, and just, just eyes wide open and just trying to learn the playbook, and then, hearing the playbook or the play in the huddle, and then forgetting my motion, and then hearing the play, learning my motion, and then forgetting the snap count, and just all the little milestones of like having to figure out, how to be impactful and be on the team and just make my way. And then, yeah, I mean, Empire Field was big. That was kind of when we were going through the transition of renovating BC Place. And I thought Empire Field was an awesome venue. I mean, it was loud in there. It was, just out of downtown. The views were amazing. And then when BC Place first was renovated and we played Edmonton, I remember every play in that game, because that was kind of like my first game starting, and we had like 56,000 people in the stands, and it was nuts. I mean, I got 2 touchdown passes. One was like a 70 or 60-yard swing pass, and it's in the documentary a couple of times. But that was kind of like me. That's when I really realized like I can play in this league. I'm gonna be a starter for a long time, hopefully. And that was really, for me, a big moment, and at the biggest stage in front of the most people. And then, we went on a 8-0 run that season after being 1-6, and then, finished first in the West, and, beat the hometown Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Grey Cup, which was just icing on the cake. But yeah, I mean, just more so the early stages were really awesome. And then as it went on, I mean, I still talk to G-Roy, I still talk to Angus, even old guys like Shirko or Zuli, so more so the older guys. I just ran into James Jurachuk, Andrew Jones, Jason Araki, Sean White, and then, the new guys, the guys on the team now, Suk Chung, I played with him, and Mikey Couture. And I talked to RP, seldomly too. So, I mean, it's awesome the amount of brothers that you kind of come across and you play with, and you still hold bonds. And football is the ultimate brotherhood, team sport. And, some of my best friends and relationships are, from this game that we play and you guys cover. So it's the best game in the world in a lot of ways. And, I'm just so happy and grateful that the Lions gave me that opportunity, at that early age. And, after having me at receiver and then safety and then, back at running back and then back at receiver. And, they were just trying to find a spot for me to get on the field. And actually, we're doing a charity golf tournament for the junior team in Nanaimo on Saturday. And I got Wally coming over to speak with me. So,
nice.
Shout out to Wally Bono and Neil McAvoy, who's still in the building there. Without those two guys, I would have never been in this situation right now, and being able to tell my story and do all the great things that I was able to do. So.
One last topic from me I'd like to get your thoughts on, and I think it's something, especially for myself being a Winnipegger, I find this very, very cool, is that your impact's already definitely been felt when you got a guy like Brady Oliveira literally being the next hometown guy coming up. Has growing up, like, when did you discover or hear of Brady? And I know you guys shared the backfield for a couple of years in Winnipeg. Do you guys ever talk about how your influence on Brady and how Brady's become one of the star running backs in the league already now?
Yeah, I think I heard of Brady when I was like, because he's 10 years younger than me. I think I heard of him when he was probably like 13 or something like that. And yeah, he played for the Nomads, and I had played for the Nomads for like 1 or 2 games back when I was switching high schools. So I had some ties there still, and everyone was kind of saying, man, this kid's a man against boys, man against boys. And then I actually went and watched him play when he was 15, and I was blown away. Like, I think he was like 200 pounds at like 15 years old, and just running through everyone, and had some speed. And then he started working out at the same gym as I, and so I kind of got to know him more as a player, as a person, and just kind of sharing stories with him, and being that mentor. But it's kind of cool. I mean, you can even go to Dembski, like we're all 5 years apart. And I mean, me and Dembski have very, very similar lifestyles, like upbringings, I consider all three of those guys, we all came from the same high school. Brady went, late as well, where Dembski was there, his whole time. But, three guys that all played for the Bombers at one time, that all from the same school, and, still are very, very close, and help each other out, which is pretty cool. I don't think that's happened in any, in any team, in any city, like it has with us, and especially just the impact that, those guys and myself kind of made in the game, and continue to do, as they go forward. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, just chatting with Brady, and I know he's going through some injury stuff right now, but just part of the game. And it's so hard to play the running back position, and stay healthy for full 18 games year in and year out. And I think a lot of guys, once they do that once, they think they're kind of untouchable and invincible in a lot of ways. But one little hit, one little thing can happen, and you're nicked up for a while. So big thing for me is just keeping them saying, stay positive, and make hay when your time comes. And obviously you guys don't want him to be going off too much, but when he gets back, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, we've seen enough. He's produced enough that, never forget, Western Final last year, their first drive of the game, it was all him. I think he had 7 carries and a reception and a touchdown, and was the only offensive touchdown they scored all afternoon. But
well,
yeah,
I'm a 97 too, so we're the same age, me and Brady, and I went to Murdoch McKay, and he ended I think he ran for like 250 on us in the playoffs in 2014, and they actually upset St. Paul's in the championship, and he got his ring there with Oak Park. So yeah, I knew of Brady. You probably saw me getting run over by him, probably.
There's probably film of it somewhere we got to track down in the archives.
Yeah. It was funny though. I literally thought, this guy is like Andrew Harris already, and I'm playing against him in high school as for fun. It was not fair with Brady, but
yeah, Brady was a man playing against boys, that's for sure. Especially in his senior year, and then I think it was probably like his bantam year, maybe before he went to high school. It was just like, this guy, no one can touch this kid right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling we might see him this week, but you never know. Well, for sure, 3 games against the Bombers in the next 6-7 weeks, something like that. So
gotta love that schedule. Eh?
Gotta love it. Hey, it's back to a balanced one, at least, for sure. So hey, before we're out of here, Andrew, quick plug for those who haven't seen it yet, who weren't at the premiere. Where can they find Running Back Relentless?
Yeah, so you can find Running Back Relentless on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and Google Play as of Thursday, so tomorrow. I think we're having some subtitle issues with the French version for Canada, so it might be a little delayed on Amazon Prime, but it'll be up there by mid next week, in Apple Play and Google Play for sure tomorrow. So check it out. Yeah, I'm just really excited to share it with you guys in the world, and whoever wants to watch it. And hopefully, like I said, it'll impact some people in a positive way, and kind of shed some light on some real issues that a lot of athletes go through, that just kind of bury and eat up. So and it's not just, like I said, it's not just based off athletes. This is for everyone. So
well said. And we look forward to seeing you on Friday as well. Andrew Harris stopping by First and Now. Thanks again, sir.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate this.
Awesome. All the best, Andrew, and congrats on the retirement.
Thank you.
Very excellent and powerful stuff with Andrew Harris, 4-time Grey Cup champ, 5-time All-Star. Rewrote the Canadian rushing records in this league, and very high up there on the BC Lions record books as well. And yeah, Running Back Relentless, Amazon, Apple. We were lucky to get an advance copy before the interview. And yeah, we didn't want to hit on too much of it, one, to not spoil it. But yeah, I knew bits and pieces of Andrew's story, but not to that extent. And it's a props to Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation, the executive producer who helped us spearhead this interview as well. Excellent stuff, and I'm glad we had the chance to help him share more of the story.
No, it's a super cool documentary, and I think a lot of people are going to beat this drum, and I'm beating this drum that there has to be more of this type of content, right? It's someone...
Absolutely.
I guess if there's any new listeners, I don't know. I am a Winnipegger, right? I grew up a big CFL fan living in Winnipeg, so while I was still there in 2019, Andrew Harris was the hometown hero, right? That ended up bringing a Grey Cup back to Winnipeg, and the documentary touches on this in that 2019 Grey Cup, that he went out there and just decided I was not going to be denied. And you could definitely tell that from the way he played, scoring 2 touchdowns, getting the Bombers on the board in the first quarter against Hamilton there. He was just a man on a mission right in the prime of his career. A core memory for me, for sure, which is I'm in an ironic position right now given where we are right now, but he's someone I definitely looked up to, growing up. He's someone who made a legendary career for himself living in Winnipeg, complete icon in that city, really across the country too. So it's really cool to see his perspective and all the perseverance he has in his life, and just that he's in a better place right now and got out of that darkness time and time again, and hopefully there's no more of that for his life.
Yeah, and we encourage everyone to watch it. You'll learn a thing or two about Andrew Harris, the person, and if there's folks out there dealing with life issues, we all think we have issues in life, but there's hope. There's hope for people who, as Andrew puts it, fall into that dark hole. He mentioned that 3 or 4 different times in his life, at least. So, and that 2019 Grey Cup, I know everyone was high on the Ticats, 15-3. Going into that game, I was thinking Winnipeg. Just remember, they had to battle. They had to win 2 tough road games. And Hamilton, not to discredit it, 15-3 is hard to do, but the East Division was a little, let's just say, not as deep as the West that year. So I was not surprised at all, given, remember, he had the whole drug suspension thing hanging over his head too. So all the motivation was there for Harris and the Bombers. And I know there's some people out there, and there's some thought out there that maybe he left the BC Lions on bad terms. I'm not so sure of it. You heard him talking. That was like a 2-minute answer at least he gave, 2-3-minute answer on all the relationships, and he's going to have Wally MC his golf tournament with the VI Raiders, and I look forward to the day that he comes back here and goes on the Wall of Fame or gets his due, because that's going to be well earned.
100%. And he talked about that, and when he joined the Bombers in 2016, that it was primarily the opportunity to go play for his hometown, right? So, he mentions money is a reason too, right? And that's always going to be a reason with professional contracts and all of that. But I think there's a lot of parallels between when Winnipeg was making their kind of rise to this borderline dynasty to where they got now, and where we are as a franchise now too, right? Like in 2017, Winnipeg, they go to Calgary, and 2018 they go to the West Final and they lose, and it's a game where they didn't put up much points,
didn't score a touchdown,
left a little out there kind of thing, right? And then there was a year before too where they couldn't get over the Calgary hump, and then Edmonton was still kind of dominant with Mike Riley. Edmonton beat them in 2016, I believe, in Winnipeg.
17,
right?
16 they lost here.
16
Winnipeg.
They lost here, but 17
Edmonton won in Winnipeg.
Yeah, right, and the home game, right? So
Mike Riley's last ever playoff win.
But there was a couple years where Winnipeg just couldn't get over that hump, and it's always like that sports cliche where you have to learn how to lose before you learn how to win, right? And now it's been 2 seasons here where we're right there and just need that extra kind of oomph to take us over that hill, and to make this topical, but get a nice taste of that on Friday night in Winnipeg.
Very well said. Bonus episode of First and Now. Like I said off the top, we don't do a bonus episode very much, but when we do, it's for good reason. And thanks again to Justin Dunk for helping us track down Andrew Harris, and we look forward to seeing him Friday night, IG Field. We'll be back with another episode next week, recap the game in Winnipeg, look ahead to a home game against the Edmonton Elks. First and Now is the official BC Lions podcast. So long, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.